So sometimes native speakers add a w sound to make linking between two vowels more fluid. Now it's very, very subtle, and I'm going to stress that a lot because if you make it too hard of a w, then it totally changes the pronunciation. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so first we have, although I have a dog, I'm not a big animal person. So here, first and foremost, let's do a body check right now. It's a casual sentence. Relax your shoulders. Visualize yourself talking to, let's say, somebody you met at the park, or maybe one of your colleagues, and you're talking about pets. Although I. So now check out where the emphasis is. It goes on though. Although I, very subtle, it's a little raise, not al-tho-wai. Although I. Listen for the W intrusion. Although I. Okay, so it's really subtle. I don't want you to say al-tho-wai. So it's not a hard Y. It's just al-tho-wai. It really just facilitates the mouth movement. That little is what makes the linking so smooth. Okay, so try again. Although I have a dog, here also listen for I have a. Although I have a dog, I'm not a big animal person. Nada. I'm not a big animal person. Good. Next. Can you please continue explaining the project? Oh, so this is a great example for question intonation. There's a little more rhythm in questions, and we always have the inflection at the end, so it goes up. This is something I really want you to pay attention to because a lot of other cultures I've noticed that your native language might use that upwards inflection when you speak naturally, like just sentences, statements. If you do that in English, you may have noticed that people react to you differently. They might say, "Are you asking or telling me?" Or they might look at you confused. And the reason they're confused is because they know what they're hearing is a statement, but it sounds like a question. So this will help you perfect your statements. Back to the question. So let's look at the emphasis. Continue explaining. This is why we're doing this training. When you perfect the pronunciation of an individual word, for example, continue, silent E at the end, not continue-e, continue. So you perfect the individual pronunciation that allows you to then properly use the W intrusion. Continue explaining. When you link it, then you can identify the correct or the most accurate intonation. Yay! Okay, so again, can you please continue explaining the project? Can you please continue explaining the project? So it's the na 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 na. And by the way, I'm just saying it repeatedly. Feel free to pause anytime that you need some more time to practice and say it out loud yourself. Now, I know that you're recording this, right? So when you're looking at yourself, this is a question. Can you please continue explaining a project or the project? So that sounds to me more like either you're a student or you're asking about a project at work. So your body language is going to be relaxed but confident because you're asking about something in a professional setting, and inquisitive. Your face is going to make that question face. So you're not going to smile and say, "Can you please continue explain?" You're going to sound ridiculous. I sound ridiculous. So can you please continue explaining the project? Good. I have a studio apartment. So here, just bringing it back to the question. When you say this, if it sounds like, I have a studio apartment, if you said it like that, this is why people might be confused when you're speaking English. This might be a huge breakthrough for some of you. So if you went, I have a studio apartment, if you go up, that sounds like a question to a native speaker. So listen carefully, keep it even. I have a studio apartment. Apartment. Okay? Now back to the blending. I have a studio apartment. Oh, oh. Okay, then look at the emphasis. I have a studio apartment. And actually the T there, apartment, it's a stop T. You don't really hear the T, apart, art. The T then just comes up and the air stops in your throat, apartment. And I kind of do that at the end too. This you might hear either way, apartment or apartment, which is that like stop T. Okay? And then also notice I have a. I have a studio apartment. So I even go up a little bit with have. I have a studio apartment. Now context. Maybe you want to emphasize that you, so you would say, I have a studio apartment. So even then, studio apartment. I underline it here to highlight that that's where the emphasis is, but stressing syllables is a subtle technique. So if you're saying, I have a studio apartment, so listen to your recording, that's too strong. So you want to bring it down a little bit. It's not as much forced air. So it's not par. It's just, I have a studio apartment. Okay, good. Notice that when I'm saying it, the goal is not to speak faster, but smoother. So I have a studio apartment. It's just smooth. I'm not saying it any faster because that's not your goal. Your goal is always clarity and communication, but by saying it smoother, you sound more natural. And again, by fixing your intonation, by correcting that tendency to go up, you make it a little more flat. That helps you with communication because there's no confusion. It's a statement, not a question. Good work.